For the first time since 2021, the Rangers are going to have someone other than Marcus Semien manning second base. Who's it going to be?
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about how the Marcus Semien trade impacts this infield, who's going to be manning second base every single day. Will it be someone already on the roster? Will the Rangers make yet another trade for a starting second baseman? Or will there be a big or maybe small free agent signing? But before we get into all that, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, the Rangers traded away Marcus Semien a couple of weeks ago to the New York Mets in exchange for Brandon Nimmo and cash considerations, but Brandon Nimmo will not be manning the infield. He will not be manning second base. And one of the nice things about Marcus Semien being a Texas Ranger was that you did not really have to think about who was playing second base really on any given day. It was going to be Marcus Semien pretty much every single day. And now, for better or worse, that is not going to be the case in 2026. But the Rangers have some internal candidates that they can look to. We'll talk about who those are in just a second. There's possible that the Rangers go and make a trade for a second baseman. I think that might end up being the route they want to go to if they want to get an impact second baseman, or they could go the free agency route. There's not a whole lot of primary second basemen on the free agent market, including the best one maybe in Gleyber Torres, who is signing a 1-year qualifying offer with the Detroit Tigers, trying to regain some value. I also don't think he was going to get anywhere near the $22 million or so that the qualifying offer was this year. So I don't blame him for taking that on another kind of 1-year prove it deal. I mean, he'll be 30 next year, so it's not like he's getting that much older. But there are some free agents the Rangers could possibly go after, and some really interesting trades, including a couple of guys who might just replace or even improve on the production the Rangers got from second base from Marcus Semien the last couple of years. But I want to start with the internal candidates because I think those are maybe the most likely candidates for the Rangers to go to for their starting second baseman. And the most obvious one is Josh Smith. Joshua H. hits real good. Pookie should have been All-Star, formerly Silver Slugger, should have been Gold Glover. Smith. All of those things, Josh Smith has been really fantastic for the Rangers the last couple of years, at least in the first half of games. Last year, a 3-win season, following up yet another 3-win season in 2024, where Josh Smith was objectively the best hitter on the Rangers in the first half in 2024. And in 2025, he was a better than league average hitter. Yet again, a 107 OPS plus this year and a 114 OPS plus in 2024. Now, the good part about Josh Smith is that this would give him an everyday position. He could just work on one position, not have to be a super duper uber utility player in playing first, second, third, fourth, fifth, eighth base. He can just play second base and be good at a position. Now, a lot of the advanced metrics the last couple of years haven't really liked Josh Smith's defense, no matter where he's played, which I think it's more the advanced metrics not really capturing what Josh Smith is doing, and more than I think Josh Smith is just not a good defender. This is a good defensive player, and this is a good hitter. Now, one of the things that Marcus Semien did bring to this team that the Rangers didn't have a whole lot of last year was home runs. Even when Marcus Semien is bad, same thing with Adolis Garcia. Both those guys are at least hitting balls over the fence, and that's not really what Josh Smith is about. It's not really what he's going to do. He had 10 home runs this year. He had 13 home runs the year before that, and 6 in 2023 when he played 90 games. Now, I think he's going to be an everyday player. I think this is the most likely solution of just Josh Smith being that everyday player. But you have to look at the harsh reality of what the second half has been like for Josh Smith the last couple of years. In the first half, he's been great. I mean, truly fantastic. In 2024, in the first half, he was the Rangers' best hitter. I mean, he was awesome in the first half for the Rangers that year. An 861 OPS in 90 games in the first half. 10 of his 13 home runs in that first half, just a few points below a 300 hitter, and just a few points below a 400 on base, and a 469 slugging percentage. That's a really, really good hitter. But in the second half of 2024, he was awful. I mean, he hit 215. He had a 565 OPS, nearly a 300-point drop in OPS between the first and the second half. And a similar thing happened this year. Now, it wasn't quite as drastic a drop-off, but it was still pretty bad. A 769 OPS in the first half. That's a really good hitter. 8 of his 10 home runs this season came in the first half. He hit 277 on base in the 350s, slugged over 400. That's a good player. That's a good everyday player. And in the second half, he played 60 games. He hit 208 and on base just barely above 300 and a 592 OPS. That's almost 200 points below, about 170-ish points below what he did in the first half. Not quite the 300-ish point drop off that he had in 2024, but still a very significant drop off for Josh Smith between the first and the second half. Now, maybe instead of platooning left versus right, they platoon first half versus second half. But the other half of that platoon is probably going to be Ezekiel Duran. That's kind of plan A right now as the roster currently stands. Zeke Duran last year offensively was pretty awful, but defensively was very good at a multitude of positions. Offensively, just did not have that pop, did not have a single home run last year. Not a single one, and only 3 home runs in 92 games in 2024 after a career high 14 homers in 2023. I don't know what exactly led to this drop off, but a 559 OPS this past year, a 609 OPS in 2024. I mean, offensively, he has been maybe the hardest hit guy of anybody of the Rangers offensive downturn from 2023 through the last couple of years. I mean, it has been a huge, huge downturn from a guy who I thought was going to be an everyday player, who I thought the Rangers might trade off after 2023 because I thought he was just too valuable to keep as just a super utility guy. And the last couple of years has proven maybe he's not. Maybe there were no biters on that trade. I think those guys are definitely going to get some looks. I think Zeke Duran isn't going anywhere. The Rangers didn't decide to non-tender him, which I'm surprised a few people. The other options behind them, because Josh Smith in 2024 did really great against hitting lefties. This past year, not so much. This past year, he was just nowhere near what he was in 2024 hitting lefties. A 502 OPS against lefties this year versus the year before, a 774 OPS against lefties. He was even better against lefties than righties in 2024. That was very much not the case this year. So maybe the Rangers are looking for a right-handed bat that crushes lefties to kind of hide that platoon split, which maybe they're going to be looking for someone to do that also in center field. They've got some internal options for that. Maybe Cody Freeman is going to be one of those options. I'm sure he's going to at least, fight for one of those roster spots in spring training. Michael Hellman, although we didn't see it in the major leagues this year, he is a super utility player. He is someone who has played shortstop, second base, third base, as well as all of the outfield spots. Last year in the big leagues, we only saw him in the outfield, but he is capable of playing the infield, and I think he'll get a look there. I think he's going to make the Rangers opening day roster. But at this point, I think anything is on the table. The Rangers also signed Jonah Bride to a minor league deal. He had one really good season in 2024. And I say really good, it was fine around a 760 something OPS with Skip Schumacher. And then the other 3 seasons he's had in the big leagues, his OPS has been below 560 for all of those seasons. So maybe Jonah Bride is going to fight for one of those roster spots. I doubt he gets it. And for those of you who are screaming, what about Sebastian Walcott? What about the Rangers' top prospect? He's an infielder. Surely you could just shift him over to second base. And maybe eventually the Rangers could do that. I think it's possible that could be an outcome for Sebastian Walcott. But I also don't think the Rangers should be counting on Sebastian Walcott for 2026 to make an impact at the big league level. I don't think planning for Sebastian Walcott to be there and to make an impact and to even make the opening day roster, or maybe even make the roster at any point in 2026. Now, that's not to demean Sebastian Walcott or to say he shouldn't be one of the top prospects in baseball, or he's not a super valuable player, or he's probably going to have a long, good, extended major league career, hopefully all with the Rangers. But I think that planning for a guy who is going to turn 20 in March to be an everyday player when he has not seen above AA, and he did well in AA, he did fine He didn't light the world on fire, though, to a point where you had to call him up to AAA to see if he could get his some more at bats under his belt at a higher level and possibly knock on the door to the big leagues. But I think there are maybe some other prospects that might get a look eventually. Maybe Cam Cauley makes it to the big leagues at some point this year. He's played second, short, center field, and Cam Cauley can really pick it at any of those infield spots. I think eventually he makes it to the big leagues. I don't think he's going to be taken in the Rule 5 draft, and I don't know if he's going to be ready for the big leagues this year, but maybe at some point down the line. There's some other guys way down the Rangers system that are too many levels down to make an impact, but eventually down the line might be that Gavin Feen, the Rangers' first-round pick this year, listed as a shortstop, maybe eventually moves over there. Josh Owens, who's been a two-way player, maybe he makes his way over there. Loki Rodriguez, who is just way, way, way far away from the big leagues, but maybe eventually is the long-term plan at second base. Who knows exactly what the Rangers are going to do, but those are the internal candidates that the Rangers have to offer to replace Marcus Semien as the everyday second baseman. But what if they want to go the trade route? Are there any good second basemen on the trade market? Well, boy, howdy, do I have one that might just blow your socks off. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play and suddenly everything feels different. That's why making live bets with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, and every highlight moment. Let's look at some of these odds for FanDuel right now as it stands. Let's look at the NFL. Is there any odds on the Cowboys making the playoffs? Yes, there sure are. The Cowboys to make the playoffs all the way down there below the Pittsburgh Steelers, just ahead of the Carolina Panthers at plus 270. Not bad odds for those fighting Cowboys to make the playoffs. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Shout out to the Everydayers making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be talking about how this trade impacts the offense, how much better this offense should be in 2026 from two truly horrific seasons offensively for your Texas Rangers squad. Not something I thought I'd be talking about at all in terms of the Rangers franchise having bad offenses. What a just colossally weird couple of years we have had since that championship in 2023. Now, there are some good internal candidates for the Rangers to hold down the everyday second baseman spot. I think the most likely candidate is probably going to be Josh Smith. I think that is what just makes the most sense with the financial restrictions the Rangers are imposing on themselves, but it's not going to be as bad as I was really fearing when the Rangers made this trade. I thought this was a move of the Rangers saying, yeah, we're just going to shed all the payroll in the world. We just don't want to mess with that. We're going to just completely tear down, even though we have some of these superstars in their prime who we owe it to them to go and compete in Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, Corey Seager as well. But the promise that he made Brandon Nimmo, Chris Young, that is, when he traded for Brandon Nimmo, he said, hey, we are not about to tear things down. We are still going to field a competitive roster. But signing a big old free agent for second base, I don't think is going to be the move. We will talk about those free agents, what options they have out there, but second base hasn't primarily been a big, impact player position. The Rangers having two impact players in the middle infield over the course of when they were both good in 2023 and a little bit in 2022 and a little bit in 2024 as well. I mean, that's what made the Rangers special is they had two impact players, and second base has just not been a place where you put and find impact bats. There are very, very few just straight up stars at second base. And for a couple of years, Marcus Semien was one. He really wasn't that the last couple of years, but he had been in the past. There have been guys like Jose Altuve in this league. He's not really to that level anymore. But the guy who is, I'd say, the best second baseman in the league by far, it's not particularly close. That's Ketel Marte. And while I don't think that he is necessarily on the trading block as an actively being shopped away, I think he can definitely be had from the Arizona Diamondbacks. This guy is truly the most underrated player in baseball. For the last 3-4 years. This guy has been truly exceptional. I mean, 2019, he had his first All-Star season, and a lot of people said, "Oh, that's the juice ball. That's all we're ever going to see from him. He's never going to get anywhere near those heights that he did in 2019." And since 2023, really, he has been one of the better players in baseball, and he has been outside in 2023. Marcus Semien was the best second baseman in all baseball. That wasn't particularly close, but the last couple of seasons, Ketel Marte has been truly exceptional. This is a guy who is an impact offensive player. I mean, truly a huge impact offensive player. The last couple of years, he has been an all-star. I don't have any idea how he wasn't an all-star in 2023. He had a 5-win season that year, a 127 OPS plus. And the last couple of years, he's had a 154 OPS plus, finished third in MVP voting in 2024. He had 36 home runs in 136 games. He has also had a little bit of struggles with missing some time, just some random injuries here and there. 126 games last year, 136 the year before that. He has only played 150 plus games in 2023 and in 2018. He's been in the big leagues since 2015. He has been around a long time, debuted as a 21-year-old and had a pretty successful season with Seattle. They ended up trading him off after 2016, and he's been in Arizona ever since then. He has got a pretty long contract. He's under contract for another 7 seasons, I believe. I mean, he's been with Arizona for a long time. Yes, 2026 through 2031. That is when his contract is up. And you may be saying, well, the Raiders really want to bring on another big contract. They just shipped off a big contract at second base, but Ketel Marte is absolutely worth it. He's heading into his age 32 season, so he's maybe starting to be on an aging curve, but he has been exceptional offensively the last couple of seasons, and all the underlying data shows that this guy is not going anywhere. Defensively, he is still very good. Offensively, he is honestly one of the best players in baseball. He doesn't strike out. He walks a whole lot. He brings a lot of power, and he crushes left-handed pitching. The Rangers are desperately in need of that, and that's one of the things that is most appealing to me about Ketel Marte. Now, he also hits righties well. He's a switch hitter, but his power numbers from against lefties are just so much better. The average exit velocities are up there amongst the best players in baseball, and the results come with it. He does have a pretty team-friendly contract, though, if you can consider paying a player through their age 37 team-friendly. Next year, he makes $15 million. His salary, there's a lot of escalators in here that could increase it by up to $5.5 million each of the next 5 years, not in the final year. The final year is an $11.5 million player option. He's making $15 million next year, $12 million a year after that, $20 million, $22 million, $22 million. So it is a short-term, not that big of an increase, but eventually in the long term might get to that point, making $22 million in both his age 35 and 36 seasons. But this is a guy whose skill set is something that would definitely, age well. It would take a lot to get Ketel Marte. I think the Rangers might be able to get it done without trading away Sebastian Walcott. I think that is a possibility. I think Sebastian Walcott is in the tier of untouchable at this point. I don't see any trade where the Rangers include Walcott. I mean, he's 19 years old. He just had a pretty good season at Double-A Frisco. He is a 6'5", power hitting shortstop who is a legitimate shortstop and has not reached the big leagues yet and is going to turn 20 in March next year. I mean, this is a very, very valuable player that as good as Ketel Marte is, I don't think that he's going to be included, because you look at these trades for these players with these big salaries, no matter how good they are, unless they're, well, Juan Soto was the exception, but he still hadn't signed a big contract, so there wasn't all of that money involved. I mean, you just never see the top 100 prospects move. It just never, ever happens, except for pre-arbitration guys or, first year of arbitration guys that are incredibly talented. I like the move for Mason Miller. Like, that is one of the few times you will ever see a prospect like Leo DeVries, who was a top 10. Some places had him as the number 1 prospect in all of baseball, or at least top 5. He was consensus top 10, but getting moved for 3 or 4 years of Mason Miller, that's the kind of move that those guys are associated with. Not 32-year-olds who have a lot of money owed to them. Even though they're good players, it still might surprise you the kind of prospect package it would take to go and get a Ketel Marte. I'm not sure if the Diamondbacks are looking to move Ketel Marte. I think they're at least open to it, because they have some of these transcendent young superstars in the mix, in their shortstop, in Corbin Carroll out there in the outfield, and they still have a lot of money to guys who are not really performing uh, on these big deals for some of these pitchers that I just don't see how they can continue to run this high of a payroll, or if they are going to continue to run this high of a payroll. I mean, Geraldo Perdomo was truly exceptional this year. They traded away Josh Naylor at the deadline. They traded away Eugenio Suarez at the deadline. They still got young guys like Corbin Carroll, like Blaze Alexander, who I think is a really darn good player. They just brought back James McCann, but they've got a lot of money going to some of these pitchers like Corbin Burns, like possibly bringing back Zach Gallen, like Eduardo Rodriguez, who has not lived up to anywhere near what they expected from him. I think they're going to need a lot of money to renovate that pen, and I think they can get away without having Ketel Marte because the rest of their offense is so darn good with guys like Gabriel Moreno, like Pavin Smith, like Alec Thomas, and like Geraldo Perdomo, who was truly one of the most underrated players in all of baseball, finished fourth in MVP voting last year, and people don't realize how freaking good that guy was. Now, Ketel Marte would be the gem of this trade crop. If the Rangers did decide to fill second base with a trade candidate, I would be so all in on Ketel Marte. Whatever prospect package it takes, as long as Sebastian Walcott's not in there, I would feel fantastic about trading for the guy who has been the best second baseman in baseball for the last couple of years. But if it's not Ketel Marte, there are another couple of trade options out there, including one who might be more of a creative solution, might not actually be a second baseman, but could fill the job, and making another trade with the New York Mets. Talk about that and the free agents right after this. This show is brought to you by Gametime. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. And with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Gametime app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging tickets. With Gametime, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts power back in your hands, and it makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You can look on the app. There's all kinds of different games coming up next summer. They're going to be in Dallas, all across North America. So whether you're in DFW, want to go see a game in Arlington, you're wanting to go see a game in Frisco, or maybe you're wanting to go travel and see a game in New York or LA, no matter where you're looking to go to, Gametime is the best way to get tickets for any World Cup tickets, every match and every concert with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. Shout out to the Everydayers Thinking Locked On Rangers, your first listen every single day. On Wednesday's show, I'll be doing a bit of a rumor roundup. What are the Rangers looking at ahead of the winter meetings, which are happening next week? We are less than a week away from the winter meetings. There have been some rumors, some rumblings, some grumblings, and I will round up all of those rumors on Wednesday's episode of Locked On Rangers. Now, we've talked about one trade candidate in Ketel Marte. He would be the crown jewel of this offseason. If the Rangers could somehow get Ketel Marte, they would turn an offseason that at the beginning looked like impossible to have even a good offseason into an incredible coup of an offseason. I mean, Ketel Marte is absolutely exceptional. It would take a huge package, probably 2 to 4 of the Rangers' top 10 prospects, because their system is not particularly that great. I really like what they did in the draft this year. They could include some of those guys, including Gavin Feen, who was their first round pick this year. Maybe Josh Owens is also included, or AJ Russell. I don't know exactly what that package would look like, but for Ketel Marte, anybody outside of Sebastian Walcott, they're completely on the table. The next guy on this trade block, who's a guy who's absolutely on the trade block right now, that is Brandon Donovan, just Mr. Cardinal, just maybe the most Cardinal to ever Cardinal. This is a guy who has a similar type of profile to Josh Smith. He's a guy who has played basically every position, but he has a much better batting average. You are a batting average guy. If you are an on-base guy, Brandon Donovan is your type of guy. A 2.7 WAR player last year, an all-star with the St. Louis Cardinals, still has a couple of seasons under club control, was a Gold Glove winner in 2022, a 4 WAR season as a rookie, only had 5 home runs in 126 games, and he's not been a big home run guy. That is not what he is bringing you, but Brandon Donovan does bring you some defense. He brings you some batting average, a 282 career batting average, a 361 on base average. He is a guy who has played a lot of different positions, second base, left field, third base as well. He bats left-handed. He throws right-handed. He was born in Würzburg, Germany. For those of you who are Mavericks fans, you will recognize that as the hometown of the great Dirk Nowitzki, having a Würzburg native back in DFW. Now that Maxi Kleba, former Dallas Maverick, also Würzburg native, metaphorical son of Dirk Nowitzki, having another Würzburg native playing professional sports in DFW would be just, it would be absolutely delightful. I'm pretty sure his parents are American. He just grew up in Würzburg because he was drafted out of the University of South Alabama. I cannot think of two more different places than Mobile, Alabama, and Würzburg, Germany. What an interesting life Brandon Donovan has lived. But this is a guy who I don't think would cost anywhere near as much as Brandon Donovan. It might take a top 10 prospect for the Rangers to pry him away from the St. Louis Cardinals, but they're an organization that is kind of in flux. They are kind of selling off things that are not nailed down. They have a new president of baseball operations. I think that they're just going to be in a weird spot, and Brandon Donovan has been actively trade shopped this winter. So if the Rangers could go and get in on that action, I would be very much in on that. I think that he is a better offensive player than Josh Smith. He has shown it more consistently across the course of his 4 big league seasons. He has been decently healthy for most of his career, missed a couple of games last year, only 118 games, but still a 3-win season in 3 quarters of a season. He's heading into his age 29 year. I think that is a fine player. It's not, my top choice, but I think it is a creative way to get better offensively without having to pay a whole bunch of money. And if you're going to impose some limits on yourself financially, the trade route is maybe the best way to go about that. Now, the next guy on this list, I don't think he is a guy who is going to really play a whole lot of second base, but maybe he could. He has in the past, but this is Brett Baty, coming off of a 3-win season with the New York Mets. He has played second base and third base, primarily second base. He is a Texas native, went to Lake Travis High School in Austin, born in Round Rock, Texas. He was a first-round pick by the Mets back in 2019, so bringing a Texas boy home would be just really nice of the Rangers. Played 130 games for the Mets last year, 18 home runs, a 254 batting average, a 313 on base, and a 748 OPS. An OPS plus of 111. He was 11% better than league average. He is a guy who is not that great of a defender, either at second base or at third base. Primarily has played third base in the big leagues, but he's a guy who has got a lot of bat speed. He does not chase a whole lot. Strikeout rates a little bit below average. Walk rates around average. The range defensively, he was maybe a little bit better than I'm giving him credit for. He was in the 70th percentile of outs above average last year. Defensively, not a fast guy, but he's a guy who is going to bring that pop, going to bring home runs if the Rangers brought him in. I would love adding a guy who had 18 home runs in 130 games last year. He does not really have a place on the Mets right now. They are looking to shop quite a few guys on their roster, not just Brandon Nimmo. I don't think that's the end of the Mets and their sell-off. They're just kind of in a really weird place. Mark Vientos, I think, is maybe more highly thought of. I mean, in 2024, he was fantastic last year. Vientos wasn't quite as great. Doesn't really have a defensive home. Angel Acuna is still on their roster, and maybe he ends up playing a little bit of third base for them. Maybe it's Ronnie Mauricio. They've just got a lot of young position players that are all kind of a bunch of different positions. And they also still have Jeff McNeil on their team for now. Maybe they end up trading him off and maybe things look a little bit differently there. But I think if Brett Baty came here, he might be more second baseman than third baseman, because I still think Josh Young is going to hold it down at third base for the Texas Rangers. But last year Brett Baty played 57 games at second base. He did not play second base in 2022 or any of his previous big league seasons until last year, but he had, not great defensive metrics there. The range factor was kind of fine but not anywhere near what it was defensively at third base. But this is another option if the Rangers want to go on the trade market. Now, on the free agent side, there's not a whole lot of top tier guys. There's maybe the Rangers want to go get really creative and go sign Alex Bregman. I don't see a scenario where the Rangers go big. I don't see them going big on a contract for another hitter. They just moved off of a contract. They just added another contract. That's another $100 million left on it in Brandon Nimmo, who I think is fine. Jorge Polanco, according to Spot Track, is projected to sign a 3-year, $44-ish million deal. That's around $14.6 million per year. That's fine. That's not horrible for a guy who is heading into possibly his age 33 season. He's 32 years old, turns 33 the day after the 4th of July. So the 5th of July. He had a fantastic season with Seattle last year, a lot of home runs for him. I don't know if the Rangers want to go this route. I don't know if they are going to go this route. He was pretty terrible with Seattle in 2024, and they brought him back after just non-tendering him. And then last year, he had a career season with them at 26 home runs, not his career high. That was 33 back in 2021 with the Minnesota Twins. He has been an all-star. That was back in 2019. Maybe a beneficiary of that juice ball era, 22 home runs that year in 153 games. This year, a guy who does not have a whole lot of value defensively. I mean, positionally, he's pretty awful this year, honestly. I mean, defensively, his outs above average within the 17th percentile. He was in the negative there. The arm strength was also not particularly great, but that is usually the case for second baseman because they're not making a whole lot of hard throws like the guys at shortstop or at third base either. All the offensive numbers are pretty nice. Doesn't strike out a whole lot. Walks at about a league average rate and hits some really clutch home runs in the postseason. I think this is the best second baseman on the market free agency wise, at least a guy who actually plays second base. There are some other options. I don't see the Rangers going for a big swing on Bo Bichette. I think he is great for now. He's still pretty young, but I would be very hesitant to go and sign Bo Bichette, especially with that qualifying offer attached to him. I am absolutely, abjectly terrified of the Rangers trying to sign Luis Arias. I think that would be a horrible decision. I don't like Luis Arias on my team. I like him as the concept of a player, but as a guy paying him a decent sized whatever the contract is, I'm out. I am out on Luis Arias, a guy who has one skill, and it is simply batting average. He is bad defensively at first base or second base. He cannot run well. He does not walk. He just hits a bunch of singles, and this isn't 1964. And the batting average is not the most important thing for evaluating the offensive talent of a player. There's also guys like Willie Castro, who I'm out on. I think he's fine. I think he's a fine player, but I think you have a cheaper version and honestly better version of Willie Castro in Josh Smith. I think they are very similar type players, and I prefer Josh Smith. Maybe Ramon Urias is a guy who the Rangers bring in, a guy who the Astros non-tendered. He's projected to sign anywhere from $5 to $6 million. I don't know how much exactly he's going to get, but maybe that is an option the Rangers will at least kick the tires on. There's also guys like Adam Frazier, but offensively, I think the Rangers want something from the second base position, and Frazier doesn't really bring you that. Maybe they go for Miguel Andujar. There's just not a whole lot there on the free agent market. Maybe there are some of the Korean or Japanese players who come over and play second base every day for these Texas Rangers, but I will talk about them on a later episode. And maybe it's Ha-Sung Kim that the Rangers go and take a buy low chance on for some kind of a 1-year deal. I'm not sure exactly what it looks like, but those are some of the guys who the Rangers could go get to fill that everyday spot at second base with the absence of Marcus Semien. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.